like I said, today I don't think they did anything that stopped us. AP had a couple good plays on the interceptions. One was a tip, the other one was a missed throw. Outside of that, it was penalties and us. I don't think they did anything. So.
Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Yo, what up, brothers? It's the Director. Chargers fans, I really don't want to do this video today. What happened to the Chargers? After an impressive 4-1 start, the Chargers now lose 2 in a row. One in a game that honestly we should have won. I guess first things first, props to the Patriots. They played a pretty dang good game. I don't know if they played the best game. I do think the Chargers likely lost this game to themselves, but at the same time, Bill Belichick knows what he's doing. He really did limit a Justin Herbert on Sunday, unfortunately for Chargers fans. But this isn't the same team that came out the gates 4-2. After taking down the Chiefs, the Browns, the Raiders, the Washington football team, this team is not living up to its own potential at the moment. And honestly, it's this game in particular, one that Chargers fans are becoming a little bit worried about as far as the remainder of the season. Can the Chargers right the ship? Now, in today's video, we're going to go over what went wrong in this one, what the Chargers can do to maybe improve, what can the Chargers do to improve and to right the ship going into the remainder of the season, because we are in the portion of the year where the schedule is supposed to soften up a little bit. And if the Chargers can't take advantage of that, then we are in serious trouble. So I got a list of things in here, too, that I think the Chargers can do to help improve themselves going into the later half of the season. But a 4-3 start cannot be squandered. This is still a pretty dang good record for the time that the Chargers are in as far as their season. The Chargers need to try and protect the rest of the year, because 4-3 is definitely not where I thought we would be after the impressive start. I was thinking 5-2 at the bare minimum. So before we do get started, guys, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this content. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into this one. Lights, camera, action. The Chargers versus Patriots Misery Monday post-game report. Let's take a quick skim over some of the stats in this 27-24 loss. Justin Herbert, 18 for 35. 223 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Of course, one of those interceptions coming back for a pick 6. Very, very costly for the Chargers. Mac Jones not too far behind. The same stat here, but no interceptions, no touchdowns. So the Chargers did an okay job at maintaining and containing Mac Jones. Out here on the ground, though, we had to expect this at this point as Chargers fans. 23 carries, 80 yards, and a touchdown for Damian Harris. Bolden, Stevenson, and Jones also got in on the action there, too. One surprising stat in this game, though, is the Chargers did outproduce the Patriots on the ground with 163 yards and the touchdown. So that's something good to look at here. Chargers fans, myself included, have been a little bit worried about the run game. But, mixing in a little Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson seemed to do the trick in this one. Now receiving, Keenan Allen, 6 out of 11 targets. There's something up with that. We're going to go over that in just a minute. The Patriots, 218 yards, no touchdowns, but Aguilar having himself an okay day as well. Defensively, outside of Derwin James, this team was okay. Derwin James was absolutely fantastic, though. We do need to point that out. 13 tackles, tackle for a loss, and the forced fumble, if you guys remember. Derwin James had himself a pretty decent week this week. So let's go over this game. First, let's go over the few things that were good about this game, okay? There are some good things to take away from this matchup versus the Patriots. First off, let's talk about number 6. The brand new number 6 on this roster, Dustin Hopkins, who made his debut in impressive fashion for the Chargers, hitting all 4 kicks, 3 PATs, and 1 field goal. His lone field goal was nailed from 48 yards out. That's a huge step in the right direction. You guys will notice the Chargers in weeks past did everything in their power to avoid sending the special teams unit out there, sending their kicker and Tristan Vizcaino out there to try and put up points. That's going to be a thing of the past. Dustin Hopkins was a great addition to this team, one that's moving the needle in the right direction, and honestly one that should serve as an example of what happens when you take a risk in the middle of the season and add pieces that are detriment to your team. I'm sorry to get a little passionate there, but this works. The Chargers need to bring in more bodies. They absolutely need to do. And there's some guys out there that are much lesser risk that the Chargers can take a chance on. And I do think the Chargers should definitely look in that direction. Next up, Andre Roberts. I would say a solid upgrade in the return game. Not the biggest upgrade. He didn't really turn heads the way that we were hoping he would. But he still did make a difference out there. He brought one kick back for past the 20, I think 29 yards on that return. Roberts returned 3 kicks for 71 yards. Okay, that's a move in the right direction. The needle's pointing in the right direction. Yet another example of the Chargers adding something to the team that immediately helped this season. And again, the Chargers with a nice little, pocket of cash in their back pocket right now as far as cap space is concerned, definitely have the capital to go out and make more moves right now. Next up, we got to talk a little bit about Austin Eckler. Had himself a fantastic day. I would say Austin Eckler, the unquestioned running back 1 on this team. Does this mean the Chargers can't add more bodies? No, we'll go over that in just a little bit. But Austin Eckler had himself a huge day. 124 yards and a touchdown. That second effort touchdown early in the game was absolutely incredible. Getting help from Rashawn Slater and his offensive line to push himself into the end zone for that score was absolutely incredible. Austin Eckler may not be the biggest running back in the league, but he sure does know how to score points, put up points, and make his fantasy managers happy. I think the Chargers have themselves a really good one here, and he puts up another really good performance, an example of that. Lastly, in the good column for today, before we start tearing this team to shreds a little bit, let's talk about the rookie. The rookie's out there turning heads. Josh Palmer came up with an incredible touchdown grab late in the game. Focus, poise, in double coverage, as you guys can see right here. I think it's time to get Josh Palmer more involved, right? We drafted him in the 3rd round for a reason. He's kind of a nice hybrid of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. You'll see the Mike Williams-esque jump ball sort of situation here that he was able to come down with. This just kind of served as an example that the Chargers need to bring him into the game plan just a little bit more as we continue into the rest of the season, because this was probably my favorite play of the entire day, maybe outside of the Justin Jackson 75-yard plus run. It was a couple of really good players putting up some good performances, but this really did prove to me that Josh Palmer deserves a crack at it once again, and hopefully he gets more involved starting with the game versus the Eagles next week. Now it's time to talk about the bad Chargers fans. I know a lot of Chargers fans very frustrated. I welcome you guys. This is a safe place to express your frustrations, but try and keep it respectful as always. Be mad today, bolt up tomorrow is the mantra on this channel. Let's start with Justin Herbert having another off day, okay? Justin Herbert, I would say, was put in a lot of really stressful situations, especially when it came to the protection. The right side of that line continues to be, a big weak spot on this team. And if you're a team like the New England Patriots, you're going to take advantage of that every step of the way. They sent a lot of design blitzes on the right side to really target, Storm Norton and Michael Schofield. I don't know, man. The Chargers really need to figure something out here. Herbert is a better quarterback than the last 2 games have indicated. He needs to get back on track very quickly. Some people also pointed out in this game that his ball velocity is starting to become a concern. And what I mean by that is how hard he throws the ball, because there's been a lot of drops since our game versus the Baltimore Ravens. Is that something that Justin Herbert needs to work on, or the receivers? I see ball velocity as actually a good thing. If the receivers can adjust and figure out how to come down with those catches, that actually adds an advantage to the Chargers, being able to get the ball out quicker and being able to fit it into tighter windows. So that's something that I think is more on the receivers in my opinion, but you guys let me know in the comments section below. And then lastly, we did talk about the protection being lackluster. 3 sacks in this game for Justin Herbert. He was scrambling. He was trying to make the best of the situation, but they really knew how to attack this Chargers offensive line, and it really did show in Justin Herbert's performance on Sunday. Next up, the play calling. Now, this is one that Chargers fans, myself included during the game, really started to complain about when it came to Joe Lombardi. Joe Lombardi needs to be fired, which is an overreaction. It really is, guys. Joe Lombardi, he's done some really good things in the first portion of the season. Him and Justin Herbert seem to get on the same page. The last couple of games, I don't know what has changed, but Joe Lombardi needs to change things up a little bit. He needs to get more creative. Please, for the love of God, no more bubble screens to our receivers that don't really have the speed to utilize that sort of move. Keenan Allen, more than capable of, juking a couple of guys out if he has to, but when it comes to the yards after the catch, definitely not his strongest suit. So, I don't know, man. Utilize the weapons in front of you just a little bit more. You got Austin Eckler out here. Throw some screens in there. You got Justin Herbert. I would say one of the better quarterbacks in the league when it comes to RPOs. There's got to be a way to shake things up and get more yards that are safer yards, more secure yards that don't have and carry a lot of risk. And also just let Justin Herbert do his thing in his progression, right? Justin Herbert, he really did show a lot of moxie last season when it came to coming off his first read if it's not there. There needs to be more play designs that help him in those progressions as well. Joe Lombardi does share a lot of the blame this week, but I don't think it's time to think about firing him at this point. He just needs to get on the same page with Tom Telesco and Brandon Staley and figuring out a more aggressive way to attack defenses by really utilizing Justin Herbert and his ability. If the right side of the line starts to decimate a little bit, maybe start targeting, an Austin Eckler on a screen on Slater's side a little bit more. We've seen a lot of athleticism out of our left tackle. Let's use it a little bit more in those situations. So, yes, the play calling, very, very bad. Not time to think about firing Joe Lombardi, but he needs to start thinking about shaking things up just a little bit. Next up, the receivers. And yes, this is definitely one that was very costly to the Chargers. We did talk about the concerns with Justin Herbert's touch a little bit. Is he throwing too hard? I don't think so. Maybe he could add a little bit of touch on there to help the Chargers receivers out if the Chargers really aren't figuring it out at this point. But I think that's on the receivers. Again, I'll reiterate that. There were several instances that cost the Chargers a first down when it came to drops in this game as well. The Chargers, I don't remember the stat. I think it was 4 for 12 on third downs. What happened? The Chargers so good in third down situations in the first quarter of the season. What happened after that? It really seems like the Chargers very much so struggling in that department. And I think the receivers do share some of that blame as well. We did see, Keenan Allen very frustrated after the game too. And Jared Cook, I would say the biggest mistake of this game does fall on him. I can't say that with certainty. There was a miscommunication. You guys will remember that play. Jared Cook ran an in route when he should have been running an out route. Justin Herbert tosses it to the sideline, and there's Adrian Phillips, the Patriots safety, the ex-Chargers player, I should add, who takes it in for a pick six. That is a classic miscommunication. Whether that be on Jared Cook or Justin Herbert is yet to be known, but to me, it looked like Jared Cook was a little bit lost out there, and that's one, I think, the play of the game that cost the Chargers in this one the most. Lastly, when it comes to the receivers, where's Mike Williams? 2 catches on 5 targets. We need to see more out of him, especially in a season that he's fighting for a contract. He's been so good in the first portion of the year and really disappeared in this game. The Chargers have a lot of things that they have to figure out when it comes to their offense. The offense certainly, the defense looked okay, a little bit better in the run defense department, but just a little bit. But the offense really, really struggled in this one, and the Chargers have to collect themselves and figure out how to move forward from this one. So, Chargers fans, question for you guys in the comments. What do we do now? Very vague question. What did the Chargers do now to help themselves? Because again, a 4-3 record is still a solid start, especially considering the remainder of the schedule. The Chargers should be going on a winning streak here very shortly if they can sort this out. What do the Chargers need to do to right the ship? Okay. Before we do move on to that, I actually forgot about this. The run defense continues to struggle. Felt like the Patriots were guaranteed 5 yards a carry. The Chargers cannot continue to get gashed. That's a playoff hope killer right there. So what do we do now? Well, let's get into this portion of the video. What can the Chargers do now? And I know I feel like a broken record. I sound like a broken record, but the Chargers need to add help at defensive tackle. The Chargers still have how many games this season? Like 10, 11, because we had the bye week in there. There's a lot of football left to play, and the Chargers can make a move right now in order to give themselves a better shot at not just the playoffs, but a Super Bowl. Akeem Hicks, Fletcher Cox, Geno Atkins, a free agent. These are options that are out there right now. And I feel like the Chargers have become very dedicated to the too high safety look. That's a big thing. Everybody asks me all the time, Director, why are we so bad versus the run? Well, one, our guys up front, not the best versus the run outside of Linval Joseph. Joey Bosa can be very good at times as well, but they just don't have a lot of help up there. The too high safety look is something that Brandon Staley wanted to instill in this defense, which honestly has helped the Chargers in preventing big plays from our opposing offenses. Still, that takes away help from the box. It takes away help from your linebackers, and it takes away help from your run defense, and that's something that the Chargers have struggled against very mightily this season. They need help up front pretty bad. So the Chargers, with those options out there, like we said, Akeem Hicks, I would guess a 4th, 5th round pick is what he would cost with the injury concerns and age. It certainly could be higher, maybe like a 3rd round pick. The Chargers need to make a move here. They need to bring in a guy like Akeem Hicks. Akeem Hicks, the reason that we feature him all the time is because he makes the most sense coming to this team. Familiarity with Brandon Staley, a scheme fit, a guy that really does well what the Chargers need on this team. If they want to be dedicated to that too high safety look, they really need to bring in some help up front immediately with a guy like Akeem Hicks. But if they don't want to spend any draft capital, especially that high, which is understandable, bring in Geno Atkins, who not only adds an element in the run defense, but as well as in the pass rush department from the interior. A presence like Hicks, Geno Atkins, Fletcher Cox not only improves your run defense, but likely frees up Joey Bosa as well. You cannot double and triple team Joey Bosa every single time if you got two big bodies like Linval Joseph and Akeem Hicks in the middle. There's so many reasons why the Chargers need to bring in a defensive tackle. It's actually hilarious. And I do think the Chargers, with the trade deadline coming up tomorrow, need to make a decision very, very quickly. A presence like Hicks would absolutely transform this defense and allow Brandon Staley to run the defense the way he wants to without giving up so much in the run D. Next up, the need for speed. You guys will see Deshaun Jackson on this photo here. Brandon Cooks and Deshaun Jackson are out there. And people often tell me, Director, the Chargers don't need help at wide receiver. We have 3 great ones in Williams and Keenan and Josh Palmer, and we do. The only issue that we have as far as our receivers right now are depth and versatility. The Chargers with Jalen Guyton have not taken a lot of deep shots this season, and that can be very troublesome to Justin Herbert and even Joe Lombardi in running the offense. The Chargers are very lackluster on the deep ball this season, which is a shame when you've got a quarterback like Justin Herbert that can sling it further than almost any quarterback in the league. It's very easy for defenses when you keep plays underneath all the time. It's very easy for defenses to keep plays in front of them. It makes the defense that much easier and that much more one-dimensional. When you add in a guy like Deshaun Jackson or Brandon Cooks, it really stretches the field and forces them to try and keep plays in front of them by backing off. And right now, the Chargers' only weapon in order to do that has been Jalen Guyton. Mike Williams can definitely be, in the argument there as well, but he's not known for his speed. He's known for his possession catches, his 50-50 ball, stat. He's very, very good on the stat sheet in those numbers. But as far as a speedster, a guy that can stretch the field and cause defenses to back off, the only guy on the Chargers roster that we have in that sense is Jalen Guyton. And Guyton just doesn't have the best mitts in the NFL, nor the route running. Now, Brandon Cooks would be a very easy player for me to say, Chargers, go get him. He's not going to cost a lot this season. He will cost more later, but the Chargers certainly do have the cap space to make that happen. However, Cooks would likely cost somewhere around a 2nd or 3rd round pick. To me, still very, very worth it. He fits the scheme. He fits the play style of a Justin Herbert very well. But if the Chargers don't want to go over that route, like we mentioned before, the Chargers have 4 compensatory picks in 2022, including multiple 7th and 6th round picks, right? I think Deshaun Jackson would cost a 7th round pick. He wants out. If you guys didn't know this, Deshaun Jackson himself has requested a trade away from the Los Angeles Rams, who today, by the way, just acquired a Von Miller. That defense looks absolutely disgusting. Moves like that are required to make the postseason. And Deshaun Jackson isn't very high as far as risk is concerned. A 7th round pick. I think it makes a lot of sense, adding a lot of speed to this Chargers offense that desperately needs it right now. And in terms of Cooks versus Deshaun Jackson, the Chargers wide receiver room kind of makes more sense for Deshaun Jackson. We already have 2 featured wide receivers in Keenan and Mike Williams, which we're hoping Mike Williams gets an extension next year. But you add in a guy like Deshaun Jackson, who's literally thrown into the game scheme and into the game plan as the guy who stretches the field, gives you those go-ahead touchdown opportunities. Even at the age of 34, this man's running, 4.35 out here. I think this is the one that makes the most sense for the Chargers, and I think the Chargers should definitely go after Djax to help this offense out. Give Justin Herbert a receiver that can utilize what makes him unique in the NFL, and that's his giant arm that's not being put to use right now. If I'm Joe Lombardi, I'm pounding the table for Djax to the Los Angeles Chargers. One of the last things here, guys, the power back dilemma. Now, we saw Justin Jackson go off for like a 70-plus yard run. He looked really good. The Chargers are really thinking maybe he's the running back 2 on this roster. We also have Austin Eckler, who's a very good back. He's so good. Do we really need another running back on this roster? The short answer is yes. A bruiser would help the Chargers in several ways in short yardage situations. Those short yardage situations right now are solely put on Justin Herbert and quarterback sneaks, which honestly is not a bad idea, but I wouldn't want to put that on my quarterback every single time. Don't do that. Go get a big back, a 6-foot-plus running back like Kellen Ballage last season, which the Chargers found a lot of success with. You throw him in with Austin Eckler, good things happen. All of a sudden, you got 2 running backs that do 2 very different things that the Chargers can call on in different situations. The last thing we'll talk about here, the weakest link. And the question of the day is, when is Brian Bulaga returning? Okay, the Patriots decimated the Chargers' right side of the line like we talked about before, and this will continue to be a big problem going forward until we get Brian Bulaga back. And this is something that, honestly, after seeing what the Patriots did on Sunday, every team is going to try and do this versus the Chargers because it worked. It made Justin Herbert uncomfortable, flushed him out of the pocket, forced bad decisions. You're going to attack Storm Norton in the right side of this line as it continues to struggle in the pass protection department. Should the Chargers trade for Bulaga's replacement now, or are they going to hold out? I would not hate the idea of the Chargers going and grabbing a right tackle right now, maybe a swing tackle like Dillard from the Eagles. But at the same time, I think realistically they're going to hold out. I would expect Brian Bulaga back sometime after maybe week 10. And at that point, I hope the Chargers have held on and picked up a couple more wins along the way because that right side needs a lot of help. So Chargers fans in the comment section below, I know it's been a very frustrating week. As for me, it definitely has been very frustrating for me as well. It's not the same. Halloween don't hit the same when the Chargers lose, right? But I'm really hoping the Chargers continue to try and right the ship. The signing of Dustin Hopkins, what a move for the Chargers. Very low risk, high reward. I want to see more of that. Chargers, if you're not willing to part ways with draft capital to go out there and get an Akeem Hicks, please sign a Geno Atkins. Give them some sort of help up front. It's so obvious that the Chargers need it. The Chargers need a speedy wide receiver. Go get Djax, man. Very low risk, high reward option for the Chargers. Make moves is what I'm saying. Tom Telesco and the Chargers make moves. I know it's very uncharacteristic, but this is a different team, different situation with playoff hopes on the line. Okay? I think the Chargers, the team, the fan base, everybody deserves a move by tomorrow. It's kind of an ultimatum for me, but at the same time, a move would give me so much optimism going into the second half of the season, which the Chargers can salvage. 4-3, not a bad record. But something needs to happen now in order for the Chargers to make the postseason. And if we get into the postseason, they're certainly going to need help versus the best teams in the NFL. Next week versus the Eagles in Week 9 is going to be a make-right game. Hopefully the Chargers are up to the task of containing a Jalen Hurts, but the Chargers need to do something soon. Chargers fans in the comments, what do you want the Chargers to do the most? That's going to be my question for you guys down there. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. We'll see you next time, and as always, bolt up and stay frosty. Make a move, Tom. It's time to make a move.